Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Epps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome back to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Hello, good morning / evening, depending on the side of the world you're on.
Yep, that's very true. Returning back to the recording studio feels a little bit weird after, 9-10 weeks away from, basically the last time we recorded anything because we got well ahead on the Last of Us reviews.
Yeah, it's strange. I almost forgot how to do this. I had to rearrange lighting, and I clearly forgot to plug in my headset, so that was a delay.
Yeah,
now?
I looked at the Steam Deck and I was like, which of these buttons do I need to press again? I can't remember which icon is which.
Well, I thought I had my earbuds here because my computer was like, oh, earbuds connect, but then I just realized it's a device that it remembers and my earbuds are at work. And I was like, well, that ain't gonna help me.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. So, yeah, after our experiment focusing on The Last of Us, going episode by episode, we're now returning back to our sort of previous format where each week we'll be searching out the best new content and bringing a different movie topic review each week. And on that note, this week we're reviewing the new historical true crime film Boston Strangler, which is now streaming on Disney Plus in Australia and Hulu in the US, if I'm correct.
Yep, it's on Hulu over here.
Probably should give a description of what the movie is before we get into our thoughts. So it's basically a fictional recount inspired by the infamous Boston Strangler murders. In the movie, we are following Loretta McLaughlin, who was one of the first reporters to connect the murders and ultimately break the story that this was a serial killer. And she, along with fellow reporter Jean Cole, challenged sort of the sexism of the era in pursuing this story at great personal risk and finding a whole bunch of corruption and ultimately casting doubt over the identity of the murderer that the police eventually settled on. So what did you think of the movie before we dive into deep level discussion?
I was really impressed with it. I didn't have high hopes for it. A lot of these kind of biopic things don't work out so well when it comes to serial killers. A lot of it's always really Hollywood up and glorified and stuff. But it was nice to see a fresh take on it. I feel like they did really well. Kind of diving into their research before they actually did it and really trying to get some of the key points in it. So I was really impressed with that. I really hope that more production happens like that moving forward. Hopefully, other serial killer movies. I mean, saw the success of the Ted Bundy series, or not Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer series.
Yep. Yeah, the Dahmer one.
I was thinking of the Confessions of the Ted Bundy thing, and that actually was pretty decent too. But
yeah, the Dahmer one was something special.
Mm-hmm. But I liked it. It was decent, and I enjoyed watching it, just like I enjoyed watching this. So if they stay on this path of, better done ones, I'll be happy.
Yep. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie overall. I thought, like you said, the story and the content was really well done in terms of an accurate portrayal of this investigation and everything. The performances by Keira Knightly and Carrie Coon in particular were very, very good. My one sort of drawback, though, is it felt very... I'm not sure what it was rated. I think it was only MA-15 here. Not sure what it was over there. But
I don't know.
it felt kind of very sort of toned down. I feel like it could have been a little bit more intense and a little bit sort of dread and scary, like inducing, whereas it kind of just ultimately ended up feeling like one of those run-of-the-mill like newspaper investigation drama movies where they have this really scary, dark topic that they're focusing on, but it kind of just falls into we're just in a newsroom, so you don't sort of get that intense, like, oh, we're focusing on this murderer.
I almost kind of preferred that, though, because we're so used to, like, having the shock factor now when it comes to, like, movies and TV. It was a nice, fresh kind of take on it where they didn't have to depend on that, like, shocking, like, really vivid, like, portrayal of, like, the murder scenes. They kind of just, like, led you on to believe whatever you wanted to, and you can go look at your own if you wanted to, because obviously crime scene photos are everywhere. But I kind of liked that a little bit better just because I think they worked more on their storyline versus forcing that down your throat of this is how intense it really was.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, they didn't show any of the, like, murders. We kind of, every time there was a murder happening, it was off camera, like, or you'd just hear, like, the noises and stuff. And then even the actual physical crime scenes afterwards, when the police were investigating, they never showed the bodies or anything either. It was kind of always just, we got the descriptions that you would get in the newspaper, and then you had to kind of picture that in your own mind.
Yeah, I mean, there was only, like, one that was kind of almost, like, a little bit cringe, but that was, like, when she was investigating the neighbor, or talking to the neighbor, and he explained, like, how he found the lady's body and, like, what was done to it. That was probably the only one that was, like, slightly pushing the envelope for this particular movie, because it was kind of a graphic description. But other than that, yeah, it kind of left it to your imagination and just let you wonder what really happened.
Yeah, but, like, even with that being, like, this pretty graphic description, it was still kind of
secondhand.
It was just a quote that you might see in a newspaper story, but it's not something that you would. It's not like a Saw movie or something like that where they physically go and show you that murder scene where it's like, well, geez, that's intense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mentioned, Keira Knightly starring as Loretta McLaughlin and Carrie Coon as Jean Cole. What did you think of their two performances?
I liked it both. I haven't seen Keira Knightly in a whole lot of stuff, although I don't really... Foreign films are not my thing, and if she's been in anything that's, like, not been very popular over here, I haven't really seen her in a whole lot. So this was nice to see her kind of come back on screen and do something, because for me, she's always going to be known as being in Pirates. So this was a lot more of an adult role for her to take on, and I think she did great. She seemed like a really strong character, and I think that's what this story really needed, was a strong female lead. And she did great.
I thought, like, the way they sort of did her makeup and hair and everything was pretty interesting as well, because there are some scenes where Keira Knightly disappears and she's kind of just a woman in a movie, where it's kind of like, unless you're, like, super focused on looking for Keira Knightly, it could be any random female. Which I thought was an interesting take.
They might have done that on purpose, though, just to portray that, like, she could have potentially been a victim of the Boston Strangler just because of how plain Jane she was, and, you know, she's, you know, going down, or she gets home really late, or she's at home with the kids by herself sometimes. So I think it was a decent little portrayal of how she could have just been a victim.
Yep. It's like, what's that? I think it's the movie... I can't remember what it's called now, but there was, like, a movie about the sort of Me Too movement at, like, Fox News and that sort of whole scandal. And it had people like, I think it was it Nicole Kidman and...
I know the movie you're talking about. I just haven't.
And, like, Scarlett Johansson, and, like, they still stand out as, these are big name celebrity actresses, whereas this one, Keira Knightley kind of just disappears into the role, and I thought that was a very interesting spin on it, and yeah, definitely gave you that sort of plain Jane, this is this reporter, not necessarily, oh, we pulled in this A-list celebrity to get extra eyes on this movie.
Yeah. And I think really she's probably just like the biggest name in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I've noticed, I recognize some of the other people, but she is like the biggest named celebrity that they have on here.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the cast list, and yeah, Keira Knightly is far and away the sort of most recognizable name. Carrie Coon, I've seen her in quite a number of different things. But then, like, reading through the cast list, I kind of was just looking at all the names being like, I don't really know who half of these people are. And, like, I think that's a good thing with this movie because, yeah, you don't want to be, like, highlighting all of these celebrity names. And, yes, you want to bring attention to the movie and attention to this pretty crazy story, really. But, yeah, we want to focus on these specific characters, the Loretta and Jean Cole characters, as sort of groundbreaking women, which I thought was, again, an interesting play on this story. It's not like the Dharma one where we're highlighting the killer, where
Right.
I guess because there is that sort of, was this person actually the killer sort of conspiracy controversy thing where
Yeah,
They
they've
just
had a
went-
couple different controversies with it, so they didn't want to like shine light on one or the other. They kind of just kept it really generic and let you, the viewer, kind of want to decide for yourself your take on it or whatever have you.
yeah, so they focused on the two characters that they could definitively like lock down as, yes, these two people were fully involved in this whole story and they had sort of the big picture grand scheme of things in mind.
Yeah.
Early on, like I mentioned, these two characters sort of were groundbreaking women in terms of being able to report this story, and just the way they portray the level of like sexism in a newsroom in the 60s was pretty horrendous, really, when you look at some of these early scenes in this movie.
I'm pretty sure we were like 10 minutes in and I texted you and I was like, God, the sexism in this movie is just outstanding. Because it was just all the women were in one clump together in one side of the office and then all the men were in the rest of it. And they were like dedicated to just one type of reporting and that's it.
Yeah, all of the like female journalists were relegated to lifestyle and like celebrity gossip pages where they were doing weekly appliance reviews, and
Oh my God.
Loretta's assignment was to review a new toaster. And it was like, that would actually be incredibly difficult to review a toaster and write a few hundred words. Like, oh, yeah, it made toast.
Yeah, it took 5 minutes for the toast to burn. At 4 minutes, it might not have burned. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know how you would review a toaster. Like, a toaster, it either works or it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah, 100%. That was weird.
even like, I'm trying to think, like, I've looked at like expensive toasters in the store and they really don't have that many bells and whistles on them. It's like,
No,
just make
they do
toast.
like a couple things.
I think the
Some of
coolest
them are,
toaster
like,
I've seen is
digital.
like one that does a full breakfast where you can do your toast and eggs in the same machine.
That's a thing.
It's like a toaster, and then it's got this like little cup on the side where you can like put your egg in, and then it has water at the bottom. It like poaches your egg.
Well, that explains why I don't know it, because poached eggs are gross.
No, they're delicious.
Yeah, that's an argument for another day, because we're going to put a poll up there, and it's going to be scrambled or poached, and I'm going to win.
Nah.
Anyway, toasters. Who'd have thought it?
Yep. And yeah, like then for her to be able to then graduate and do like this big investigative report, she had to basically do a bunch of work on her own time, looking at all of the reports and all of the articles that were coming out about these murders, and sort of notice a few things herself and then pitch it. And then even then her boss was kind of still a bit like, let's just keep looking into it, keep researching, but you've still got to do your other regular articles and things like that. I was like, that's a bit shitty when, like, I feel like if a guy had pitched that story to him, he'd have been like, yeah, okay, drop everything else. Go 100% in on this.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a really interesting, eye-opening kind of thing, and I had to think back to, like, that kind of an era, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that was kind of still the normal. Like, women weren't really in the workforce, and if they were, it was out of sheer desperation or something. Like, you didn't see a lot of women reporters out there and about.
Yeah, especially the reporting, like, crime and things like that. It was
right.
Those lifestyle gossip pages and the weather and stuff, and then sport and hard-hitting news was always male journalists.
Yeah.
And then the sexism, like, carried over too, in terms of once she finally did sort of get her hooks in and be able to pursue this story even more, the police, like, took great offense when they were kind of being shown up by this random reporter in terms of investigating and finding all of these links between the crimes, and the police chief even came in and had, like, this really intimidating, threatening meeting with the editor, basically.
Yeah,
trying to get her thrown off the story.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. You know, they put her through the ringer. Oh, did you identify yourself as a reporter? I heard you went to the bar and tried to, like, they implied that she tried to seduce the detectives or whatever to give her, like, information and things like that. It was just such a out of the ballpark, like, ridiculous idea. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Give her a break or something, because this is ridiculous.
And, like, the editor kind of sided with the police initially, even though she was like, no, I definitely... Yeah. The first thing I did was identify that I was a journalist. And
yeah, like, duh, this movie made me angry for the women back in the 60s, because I was like, I can't believe people treated each other like that. You know, like, it's ridiculous.
And then even her husband was, like, kind of a jerk as well when she started to sort of be a little bit more focused on this story and kind of taking extra time away to go and investigate and not spend time with him, and he, like, kind of got pissy about it.
Yeah, like, I was really excited to see that her husband was so supportive when she told him, like, hey, this is my idea, I want to go and run with it. And he was like, yeah, sure, not a problem. Like, I want you to keep working. This is something you want to do. Don't stay at home. And then
especially when she, like, dropped the first article and he was going through all the other papers and nobody else had the story.
He was, like, proud of her. Yeah, he even expressed that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you were the first one to run this. This is fantastic. But then as she got better and gained more popularity, it was like, want to slow the brakes down? Like, you're outshining me almost kind of moment kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah, which was a bit...
What the hell?
Bit shitty.
Yeah.
And then even, like, the way some of the women were portrayed in this movie, like the victims, they were portrayed as incredibly naive, and I was kind of just watching it being like, are we really going to let complete strangers into our house in the middle of the night, knowing full well that there's a potential serial killer on the loose?
Yeah, it's really weird for me to have seen that, because obviously in my head I'm like, I wouldn't let anybody in my damn house. And, you know, the chain locks on doors were, like, a really big thing then, so, like, you could have easily just, like, popped your door open a little bit with the chain still on it and been fine. But none of them did that, and I don't really know if that was, like, really how it went down, or if that was just kind of, you know, they embellished that kind of, like,
creative stupidity.
Yeah, it made me so angry to think that women really were that naive back then. Like, I didn't want to accept that. So.
I guess that's kind of like just a change in societal norms in general. Like,
I guess, yeah, you're right, though.
Like, my nan and pop used to always talk about how, yeah, they would just never lock their doors and stuff. And it's just like, no, I lock my door even when I'm at home.
Yeah, my mom was the same way. My grandmother, when she was, like, over here, before she died, she never locked her door. She had a person walk into her house trying to sell her Tupperware one time. And I go, and you still didn't lock your damn door? She didn't lock her door up to the day she died. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, no. That's
Scary
definitely not the case these days. It's like, yep, I'm at home and I lock my door, and someone
Yeah,
knocks
like
on the door that I don't know, I would generally try not to answer it, apart from the
I
dogs
pretend I'm
going
not
mad dog.
home. I don't even answer my door when I am home for people I know. I just pretend I'm not here.
Yeah, unless it's like, yeah, I want you to come here. Don't just show up at my house.
Yeah, if you just randomly show up, I'm not opening my door. Sorry, I'm not home.
Uh, and then the other thing that was pretty crazy too was, as they sort of started to get a bit more notoriety and recognition for the stories, the newspaper decided that they were going to publish Loretta and Jean's headshots, like promo photos, next to their byline in the story. Again, I thought that was a ridiculous choice in terms of, like, yeah, this is kind of a publicity stunt, but it's also, there's a serial killer on the loose, and these two women are kind of in his target demo, but let's put their photo up so that they're easily recognizable for him if he's out there reading this story, which generally serial killers are very egotistical and are going to be reading everything that's written about them.
Yeah, that was a terrible idea, and I think that was like the norm for a while in newspapers, where like they would have little headshots of the reporters for certain stories. So like, I get that, but still, you have female reporters reporting on a serial killer of women. Like, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Why was that a good idea?
I understand why they agreed to it initially, because, yeah, that kind of is the norm if you're writing a big story, that they put your face next to it. But yeah, I also would have been a little bit conscious of the subject matter. Perhaps, maybe, let's not do this right now.
Nope, I'm good.
And then I thought the film dragged a little bit in the middle as well. Like, the runtime of 112 minutes. I think, yeah, in that little middle section, like, it was kind of just, we got stuck in the mud in terms of they were trying to be mysterious and potentially like, oh, maybe this person's doing it, maybe this person's doing it. Let's put the reporters in a bit of danger where they're going and interviewing people that are suspected of being the Strangler in ridiculously creepy houses by themselves, like not going together, like just doing a one-on-one interview. I was like, no, not a chance.
That was a rough, yeah, that one particular scene where she like goes to interview the girl's ex-boyfriend, and he's like in a downstairs basement apartment, and he's like, no, just come further, it's back here. It's like, get the fuck out of here. It was like Silence of the Lambs fucking vibes going on in there.
Yep. I thought that was the most tense moment of the movie, but it was like a 2-3 minute scene, and then that was it. The rest of it was kind of just them at home doing investigating of like police reports and stuff. And yeah, I just felt it dragged a little bit in the middle in terms of, okay, we understand that they're doing a lot of research and they're looking into all these links, but then all of a sudden, once we sort of had a couple of pretty major suspects, we kind of rushed to the finish.
Yeah, it was very odd the way that they timed that. They focused on things that didn't need to be done. There's also like a lot of awkward silences between Keira Knightly and her husband on a couple of occasions, which was just really strange. It was like dragged out, like 5 minutes of awkward silence where they don't know what to do anymore. And it's like, you can tell that they're just having a roadblock in their marriage. We can move past this. We know they're having issues kind of moment.
Yeah. So I thought it could have just done with a little bit of tightening up, but like I mentioned, Keira Knightley's performance is like the saving grace for the movie. Like, I thought she was fantastic, and Carrie Coon as well, and then everyone else around them was solid, but nobody really jumped out as incredible.
Yeah, that's very true. And I've never seen Carrie Coon in anything except for, I think I told you I saw her in one thing or something. Like, I recognized her from somewhere, but I didn't know what it was. But she was pretty good. Like, I would like to see her in other things or gain more popularity because she was a really good, decent actress.
Yeah, I can't remember what else she was in, but yeah, she's definitely been in like a few shows, and
She's just not like a household name kind of moment, but
yeah, a few
she's got
shows and like
potential.
movies in a similar vein to this, where she's just like a reporter and stuff like that. Yeah, I think she fits into that role really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I thought it could have just been a little bit more suspenseful. Ultimately, feeling like a bit of a sterile portrayal of a serial killer who killed 13 women, and kind of, yeah, we just get those small little glimpses into that.
Yeah.
And I guess it did a good job of conveying the sort of the major theories that have been posed about the identity of the Strangler, in terms of it possibly being 1, 2, 3, however many people.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see a little bit more focus on that, because, like we said, at the end it kind of just wraps up really quickly, and then we just get like, what, 2 or 3 little stingers on like, okay, this has happened since the 60s, where this one guy was linked to like one murder through DNA, and then that was it.
Yeah, the other 12 are unknown and stuff like that. And it's really, it kind of sucks that they rushed through it, because the fact that like the person who was convicted when he was in his like the asylum or whatever, what do you want to call it, hospital, the guy that was with him that was also considered to be a suspect, like they could have touched more on that relationship and like investigated more into like their time in the hospital versus like just the long dragged out kind of moments. I think it would have given the 2-3 person theory a little bit more of a leg to stand on, to kind of wrap it up and end the movie on that note.
Yep.
But yeah, it is what it is. It wasn't bad. It's just that it could have been a little bit more, like it could have been a little bit more oomph.
Yeah, like I said, like I enjoyed it. I just sort of it dragged in a little bit in the middle, like had a bit of a dip, and then closed out pretty well in terms of like it educated me on those major like theories on who
I
who
educated you. Don't lie. Don't blame the movie. I text you and I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad that they're exploring the multiple person theory." And you go, "The what?"
Yeah, okay.
I had my moment. Yeah, you can say it. It's okay.
Crazy serial killer nerd that scares me now.
I am not. I just happen to educate you on things. Mom's from Boston, and she was a baby when that happened, but she grew up with all the stories about it because it was in her hometown, so...
That's...
You know.
Terrifying.
It's a thing.
Did people lock their doors when she was growing up?
Nope.
Oh, good. So nobody learned. So it was an accurate portrayal of that too.
Yeah, no. They never locked their doors. Everybody just came to everybody's house. You know, you had a curfew, and if you were in, you were in, and if you weren't, well, too bad.
Yeah, so, yeah. Enjoyable movie. I would have liked a bit more. It really made me want more Mindhunter.
I told you that, dude. Oh my god. This had such Mindhunter vibes about it. To the point where I thought the lead lady was the one from Mindhunter at one point. But yeah, it was very that kind of way. Like, that's how it reminded me of the episodes of Mindhunter, and I really, really hope somebody picks that back up because it was such a good series.
Yeah, like, I guess, like, The Strangler would have been one of the earliest serial killers in America, like, under that official title, so... Yeah, it definitely had that vibe of, we're exploring this whole concept of what it means to be a serial killer. So I was like, I really wish they would bring Mindhunter back, but Netflix has decided, nope, that show is too expensive to make, so we're not going to do it anymore. Which...
Fine, HBO has unlimited resources, so I've heard. And Amazon's doing pretty well, too. Just saying.
Yeah, but there is not a single chance Netflix sells those rights to anyone.
Yeah, I know. Netflix buys rights to things. They buy things that end up dying and then revamp it for a couple seasons.
I feel like the only way they would sell that to anyone would be to do, like, a movie that would then eventually come to Netflix. But
Yeah,
they're
like
not selling it to another TV production company that's going to put it on a competitor streaming service.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
not a
true.
chance.
It took years. Sense8 was one of my favorite shows, and it took years for them to finally, and a petition, years and a petition from all of the viewers to get them to actually agree to do a 2.5 hour ending movie for that show. And I was really happy about that. So here's to hoping that the petition circulates for Mindhunter.
Yeah, except I don't want a movie for Mindhunter.
Yeah, it's cool. I'll take either thing at this point, bro. Like,
Yeah, no, I just want the show back because they had so much potential. Like, they were just getting into, like, super well-known serial killers. Like,
no, yeah.
as they were progressing in this whole concept of understanding the mind of a serial killer, and then it's like, okay, we're getting into, like, Gacy and the well-known serial killers, and then we just ended. I was like, oh man, there's so much more potential in this.
Yeah.
Like, we had Gacy, we had Dahmer coming up, Bundy. It was like, let's go.
Charles Manson. They did so many, and like that show, to have a show reel me in the first 15-minute opening sequence, it takes a lot, and that show is the only one that's done that so far for me, because that was such a literally mind-blowing opening sequence to that show.
And yeah, like it trips me out that it must not have got the viewership that they wanted, because like true crime is massive, and it's basically a true crime story, and it's not like it has a crazy amount of like CG in it, so it's not like it shouldn't be that expensive. It should really only just be actors that you're paying, and like,
unless it's like a location thing, maybe they film in like really high-end locations. I don't know.
I feel like most of it just took place in like a set for a mental institution, a random like underground office building.
Yeah.
Like, surely you could just build cheap sets in Canada, get all the like crazy tax breaks.
Yeah.
Bring it out here, bring it out to Australia. We'll give you a bunch of government money to film out here. So they have a Netflix like studio headquarters in Byron Bay. Like, just do it.
I mean, you guys have your own, not very many, but your own serial killers that they could start looking into too. So, saying,
there's a bunch.
Mindhunter.
Yeah. Oh well. Sadly, we'll never get more Mindhunter, I don't think.
We're gonna spearhead this campaign.
Unless like
2024.
Netflix, but Netflix has cancelled a bunch of people's favorite shows, and they just don't care. Like,
yeah, it's very true.
We don't care.
And then they keep really great, like they keep other stuff that's not so hot, and they just keep doing it.
Or they just help buy a whole bunch of like random international shows and foreign language movies and stuff, and like, look, we've got all this new stuff, and it's like, yeah, but it's all random new stuff that is kind of bang average. Like,
trash TV shows too, don't forget those.
Yeah, they love them.
I live on some of them.
There's a bunch of their reality shows now, which is not ideal.
It's where the money is, but oh well, we'll just have to rewatch Mindhunter at this point, get our fix, wait for the next serial killer docu-series, documentary, show, whatever.
Pretty much.
Happens to happen.
But then they like we got Squid Game. It was like a phenomenon. They're bringing Squid Game season 2. I read somewhere the other day that they're also looking to make an English version of Squid Game. I'm like, no, let's not do that.
No, because it's not going to hit the same.
Yeah.
Squid Game hit different because it was filmed and it wasn't in English.
Yeah, exactly.
It
was weird and wacky.
Yeah, if you try to put that in a U.S. spin, no thanks.
Yeah, because it had like the Takeshi's Castle vibe, where like it was these crazy games, but then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, they're killing people.
Yeah.
An American version is.
If you do it over here, it's like Saw. It's gonna be like Saw, except you win money.
Yep. Yeah, it's not going to be as fun. They're doing the like Squid Game inspired like reality show. So yeah, let's not spend money on stupid Squid Game spin-offs, and put that back into Mindhunter season 2 or 3, whatever it was up to.
It was supposed to be season 3, and I was real salty when they canceled it.
Yeah, no. classic Netflix. 2 seasons, that's all you get.
I mean...
Unless
yeah,
you're Stranger Things, and then you get unlimited seasons from the looks of it.
There's certain things that they brought back to, like, they brought Lucifer back after Fox dropped it, and then they left it there for like another 4 seasons. I was really happy about that.
Weird Netflix decisions, weird Nintendo decisions, just companies making weird decisions.
Yeah. Oh well. I'll admit defeat on Mindhunter.
Yep. In closing, what would you give as a rating for Boston Strangler this week?
I'll give it like a 3.5, 4 kind of moment, like somewhere in the middle. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not like, I won't rewatch it. It's not like a rewatch for me.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think Keira Knightly's performance really saved it a lot. I wanted a little bit more in the time frame that they gave us.
Yep. Yeah, I fell in the 3 range. It's kind of, a nice watch to, like, if you're just looking for something during the week to chuck on after dinner and relax before bed, or something on a random rainy, crappy weekend. I wouldn't go out of my way, like, specifically drop everything, watch this movie. Like, Bullet Train is now streaming on a bunch of stuff, which I would watch over this by far and away.
Which is crazy, because I watched Bullet Train, and I almost fell asleep watching it, so I don't know if it was because I was tired when I started watching it, or if it was just because it seemed like one of those other, like, rinse and repeat action movies.
You're broken.
Know. I'm not broken.
Have you watched the Creed movies?
I'm a little broken. No.
Well, there you go. You can watch the Creed movies.
But isn't that just like a Rocky remake?
It's a Rocky spin-off.
Okay, so I've seen Rocky, so I don't need to see Creed.
Yeah, but
it's just people punching each other in the face.
Nah, Creed's
getting
great.
The shit kicked out of them.
Have you watched the John Wick movies?
Duh.
Okay.
That's not a question.
Okay, that's alright then. Lucky. Saved yourself.
The 4th one's coming out, and I'm counting down the days.
4th one's out, isn't it?
No?
Yeah, must be
I thought
soon.
it was coming out.
Must be
Yeah, it's pretty soon.
very soon.
Yeah.
What else we got? We got Mario coming up. That's exciting.
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Scream is out now.
That's exciting. Yeah, I haven't seen Scream yet.
So many movies.
Disappointed in myself.
There's so many movies at the cinemas at the moment that I want to see, but I'm also like, I don't want to go to the cinemas. It's expensive.
It kills me. I was day one when Scream 5 came out. I was in the movie theater. I literally called out of work sick. Because I wasn't feeling so hot, but then I ended up taking myself out to a me date and watching Scream.
Fair enough.
And then I went home and went to bed. But, yeah, it was fantastic. And then I was mad at myself because within 2 or 3 months it was on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, they popped that up quickly.
Yeah, so that's why I was hesitant to watch Scream 6. Still might, don't know. But
yeah, I don't know. I might see how the work schedule's going over the next couple of weeks and do a random, like, I'm going to the 10 a.m. screening on a Tuesday.
When nobody's there.
Yeah.
You just the whole theater. That's literally how it was for Scream 5 for me. It was me and 2 other people, and we were all scattered throughout the whole theater.
It's the
it was wonderful.
The old lady pensioner screening. Like, generally in there with, like, one old lady who's just out for her weekly, like, adventure to see a random movie on a Tuesday. It's my nan does that.
That's my goal right there. Retire and just randomly go to the movie theaters.
Yeah, she goes and gets her hair done and then goes and sees a random ass movie. I'm like, okay.
She's living the life.
Yep.
Just saying. I'm jealous.
Alrighty. That's everything for this week. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee. And you can follow me on social media at JamieUps Media and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of JamieUps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieUps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.